Welcome to Heart of the Homestead Family. I'm Allie.
I'm Heidi.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Caroline.
Join us as we share about life on the homestead. Okay, so the May long weekend in Canada, is it the long weekend in other places too, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Memorial Weekend is not the same weekend.
It's the weekend after.
It's the
isn't it?
weekend after, yeah.
Okay.
So
if you're in Canada, there's a May long weekend.
Victoria Weekend.
Victoria
Day.
Weekend.
Yeah.
And that is when typically most people will think to plant their gardens. It's just what we've grown up to know is after the long weekend, your gardens are safe to be planted. And that is true for a lot of things. But I have, in the last few years, started planting an early garden with all my cold resistant things like your lettuces and peas and stuff. But I've recently learned that there's like a whole other way of planting things, and that's by looking around you. And I'm like, oh, this makes sense because plants are so much smarter than us. So we could be looking at plants and moon cycles and all these things. So today we're going to talk about some of the things that you could be looking at so that you're not just planting everything after the May long weekend. Sometimes it feels overwhelming. You feel like you have to get it all in within a couple days or a week or something, and then all of a sudden it's June. And you're like, I thought I was all supposed to be done in May, but that's not true. You can expand your growing time depending upon the things around you. So we're going to talk about that today, and maybe this will help you to be a little less stressed in your planting season. So, Allie, you were the one that first told me about these things. So
Yeah. The idea that there are sort of signs in nature that we can look at for when is a good time to plant certain types of vegetables or other crops and things. And most of these are perennial plants. So they're plants that have been outside all winter. A lot of them are even sort of wild things, not necessarily that you've purposely planted in your garden. But they'll start their growth when the soil temperature has warmed up to a certain point, and that's sort of their indication to it's safe to come out now. And different plants have different soil temperatures that they are going to bloom in. So different things that we are planting also need different soil temperatures. So one of the first ones is crocuses. So when crocuses have bloomed, which is usually one of the first ones, I think there are some things that come before snowdrops or something like that. I don't know if they're a sign for anything, but when crocuses bloom, it's safe to plant radishes, parsnips, and spinach. So if you have crocuses in your garden, not only can you be excited to see flowers, but you can say, I can get in my garden now. It's time to do something exciting. And then there are other ones sort of as it goes through. Basically, April and May is when you're seeing most of these. Some of them are into early June. And they're great ways to sort of plan it out because sometimes there are years that you could plant it earlier than maybe you thought you could, maybe than the calendar said, and other years where it's a little later. And it helps you to mitigate some of the risk of the time when you plant them. There's always going to be some risk because sometimes we get those late frosts that sort of surprise everybody.
Yes.
But I haven't had any catastrophes since I've started planting this way. The last one, the one that sometimes makes me impatient, is that I'm not meant to plant out my peppers or my eggplants until the bearded irises bloom. And I want to plant those on the May long weekend, but usually those irises have not bloomed yet. So I wait very patiently, and every day, many times a day, I visit my garden and look at those irises and I say, hurry up. I want to plant my eggplants. But they've been great. And then even if I feel like I'm kind of waiting a while, once they're out, they're healthy and they catch up really quick. So
I have some of these flowers growing wild and somewhere in my forest probably. If I have an empty raised bed up where the gardens are. So if I just plant all these wild identifying plants in my raised bed and then just watch that every day, That'll work.
Just use your raised bed like it's some sort of a clock for your garden.
Yes.
It might, but that would be more effective if you were also planting all your vegetables also in raised beds, because
Okay.
raised beds have a tendency to warm up a little sooner than in ground. So if you're having an indicator plant in a raised bed, but then you're planting directly in the ground, it may still be a little bit cool.
Right.
And similarly, if you have the indicator plants beside your house and your house is old or not well insulated, the ground around the house is always warmer. So, or on the south side of the house versus where you're planting. So you want to watch that too. Because my grandfather always bragged he has the first tulips out. That's because it's on the south side of his house and his house is old and the heat would come out.
Yeah.
So this is like always 3 weeks before everyone else is.
Yeah.
So.
Because his heating bill is paying for the tulips.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or even we have our daffodils are always much, much earlier than anybody else's because it's on the south side of our house and we have in-floor heating. So it actually heats up the concrete, which in effect heats up the foundation as well, which then heats
The
garden.
garden. Yeah.
So it's beautiful. It's great.
Yeah.
End of February, beginning of March. Is that right? No, end of March, beginning of April. I don't know. Too early. Way earlier than it should be. We've got some nice, beautiful yellow daffodils.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is really exciting, but like
It is exciting.
a poor indicator
Yeah.
for the garden.
Don't
Yeah.
use that.
So keeping that in mind when
Yeah, if you're wanting it to be like a similar environment that
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
in.
Mhm.
Okay.
And it can also help with certain bugs, like bugs that are more active at certain times or they're laying their eggs at certain times. You can, if you wait until a certain indicator plant is done its thing, like bloomed or died back, whatever the specific indicator is, then you can more confidently plant out plants knowing that those plants are not going to be affected by a particular pest.
Like broccoli.
Like broccoli,
Okay.
yeah. So the indicator for that one is the dogwoods blooming. And dogwoods grow wild. So if you don't have them on your own property, if you know kind of what they look like, you'll probably see them just as you're either walking around your neighborhood or driving around the countryside. And that can be a good indicator that it's a good time to plant then your brassicas because they won't get the cabbage moths on them.
Mhm. And we see the same thing too with arugula. So we get that really bad flea beetle, and we'll have the first plantings in the greenhouse, and the flea beetle is not awake yet. But then as the season progresses, like into May, late May, the flea beetle are terrible. So we don't try to plant arugula in that time period because it's really bad. But then as their life cycle changes, we can plant again, like at the end of May into June, and we don't have no problems again. So you can see that a lot. Yeah. In the life cycle for sure.
Working with the bugs instead of against them.
Yeah. Now it doesn't help so much like, when you're more commercially growing and your customers expect you to have arugula every week, like you're still battling with that. But you can really see the change in the season and how working with the season and with nature, it can really help reduce your stress and like all this extra effort you have to put into growing something.
Yeah. When you're just growing them for your family in your backyard, then if you can be patient, because sometimes it feels like I want to get this in the ground now, or other people have already planted theirs, or the calendar says I should have planted this already. Just being a little bit more patient will get you a better outcome without having to put in a lot of effort, without having to, spray it with some insecticidal soap or use covers to keep the bugs off. Different things that are still things that, you might be willing to put in that effort, but you could also skip it by just waiting a little longer.
This episode is sponsored by Generations Marketplace and Learning Center. Come on out from May to December to purchase homegrown food, check out our classes, and take a farm tour. You can see everything on Instagram, Facebook, and on our website.
And I know the last few years we could have the May long weekend, but then there was still a really cold night after that. So
it really depends on the moon cycles a lot. Like I find, right around the full moon is when you get the last frost. So sometimes the full moon is before or after the long weekend. So you just really want to watch for that. I find that's a big indicator. It's not perfect, but it'll give you a good indicator, I guess. But then also even like don't trust the calendar, because it'll be like the weatherman will be like, oh, it's gonna be like +5 tonight, +5, and then all of a sudden it'll be like -5.
remember, you're in Canada.
Yeah. So the moon's really good for that. But then further to that too, like going on the biodynamic cycles and the biodynamic calendar, or like using the almanac is really great. So yeah, I don't know if you guys plant with that, but
I do, like, for the most part. I don't stick to it like super closely, but I often reference it.
Yeah, I have a friend who plants like strictly by the biodynamic calendar, and it's nice for her too because then she knows like they have like root days and like leaf days and stuff like that. So if you have a whole bunch of stuff like on the May long weekend you want to plant and you're overwhelmed and you don't know what to plant first, like often it's like a days or like a leaf day is a day apart from a root day. So like, okay, today according to the calendar I'll plant all the leafy things, and then tomorrow I'll plant all of the root stuff, and then the next. So then it kind of just helps you, take a breath and not have to do it all the same day. And
helps you prioritize which ones should be done today and which ones can wait.
Yeah. Now it doesn't always work out because it could be raining or whatever, but it's just a nice way of kind of working with the seasons. Yeah.
So is the biodynamic calendar, is that like with the moon? So when it's growing, you want above the ground, and when it's getting smaller, you go below
the ground. I think I'm not 100% sure. Like,
I know that's simplifying it dramatically, but that's my understanding of it.
Yeah, it works on like the astrological, planetary, and like I don't really know all the science behind it. I know a lot goes into planning a calendar, but I think you're right. It's like when the moon is waning or waxing, and then
I don't know which one is which. So
I don't know.
When it's growing, you
waxing
go up. When
is
it's
waxing is when it's growing.
Okay,
and waning is when it's shrinking.
Which would make sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that makes sense too. But again, I don't know. I plant it when I have to plant it, and then I just hope that the earth gods, sun gods rain down on me.
We're all going to be looking at the moon a lot more now.
That's right.
I mean, there's so much you can learn from it. I mean, look through the almanacs, and there's so much information in there, and they talk so much about all the phases and the, moon cycles and this and that, and sometimes it just is above my head. But the charts that they have telling me when is the most optimal time to plant, I can understand that.
Very helpful. Yes.
Yeah, and it's a good way of looking at things, because often, if you wait till the long weekend to plant everything, like your spinach and your lettuce and your arugula, it's already the same time, and you can't possibly eat it all. Like you can't, so you might as well see if you can stagger it at least a little bit, and then you can enjoy the harvest a little bit better. Or like often we have plant sales, and we're selling pea plants at the end of May, and people love to buy them, and that's great. But for me, I'm like, well, this should have maybe been in the ground like a week or 2 or 3 weeks ago, because by the time they plant them, if it's really hot, they put them in like a raised bed where it's warm, they'll often bolt before they actually flower, and then they don't get a crop. But so it's like it's a teaching moment when you're selling the plant to be like, okay, put this in a shaded area, but you recognize not everyone's going to be able to do that. So it's a weird thing, because they also, if they plant from seed, then they get the squirrels. So then it's like, okay, I'll provide you with this service, but I know it's not optimum time necessarily, but like I don't know how else to help you grow a garden. So but anyway, that's just like some of my troubles, I guess. But like, it would be nice to be able to sell them the plants earlier and get them in the ground earlier too. So
when most people are kind of wanting it to be like a weekend project to get the garden in, and then that just is the May long weekend, because that's the most suitable time for most things.
Exactly. Yeah. So
you're going to have to do 2 plant sales, the early plant sales, all the early stuff, and get people on board.
Yeah.
To find the benefit to getting half their garden put in.
I know. I struggle with that all the time. That's what I want to have, but it's it's a challenge, because everyone's like, "Where's the tomatoes, Sarah?"
Yes.
No.
Big signs. Don't ask me about tomatoes, eggplant, peppers.
The bearded irises have not bloomed yet. So
but they're so tricky, because they're one of the first ones in my garden that actually send their leaves up. So they are just like the slowest growing flower in the universe. And it always makes me so excited when I see them sticking out, and then it's still 2 months before they bloom.
I saw that one of the things was the apple trees bloom. You plant your bush beans. So I have apple trees, and I plant beans. So I'm like, yes, I can do this. And then the apple blossoms fall, you plant your pole beans and your cucumbers. So those were nice ones, because I have my apple orchard right by the garden, so I can keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm like searching for these wild plants.
Yeah.
Which
Which is kind of
Where
a
they
fun
are.
little scavenger hunt.
Which, yes, if I
So
have
we
that
might
extra
get some.
time to go
Yeah.
looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's funny because I often think about often the apple orchards are in full bloom when there's a risk of the last frost.
Yes.
And then
Mhm.
so
But
that
if
kind of
you're-
makes sense.
Yeah, but if you're
Yeah.
planting your beans from seed,
Mhm.
they're actually underground still. They're not actually going to come up for 4 to 7 days, something like that, before they're actually sprouting. So if you've put those bean seeds in the ground and there's a frost 2 or 3 nights later, they're not at risk because they're still hiding.
Yeah. And the soil is often probably not going to freeze, right? 'Cause
No,
it's
it's not that.
warmer than air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because those frosts are maybe for a couple hours at the coldest part of the night, right? It's
Right.
not that it's actually below freezing for the entire night.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
soil doesn't lose a lot of its temperature overnight.
Yeah. That's a good point too. Cool.
Yeah, so you can
Yeah.
just see what you have around your property or in your neighborhood. The concept of planting by science is called phenology with a PH.
Okay.
So if you want to look up charts for what some of the other indicators are, and then just go on a little scavenger hunt around your area and see if you can find. Just even from the sidewalk, just peer into your neighbor's garden and see if they've got some daffodils or see if anyone has a forsythia around you.
Yeah.
We're the same. Even when we plant the row crops, Thomas is always looking at the oak trees for corn and soybeans and stuff like that. And it's just funny because, even on a large scale, you think oh, you're still trying to plan this by the calendar? Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always work out, but it's nice to know you're on the right path. You're okay, yes, I'm planting corn and it's blooming. Yeah, this is good.
Yeah. It's another thing to try. It's another thing to experiment with as you're growing in your gardening adventures.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I hope this inspires you guys to go for a little scavenger hunt and to find some wild identifying plants and flowers, and let us know how you make out, and if there's some things that identifiers that we haven't spoken about, just put that down in the comments, and we'd love to hear what everyone else is doing. Mm-hmm. Okay, all the best in your planting of your gardens.
Okay, that's a wrap, everyone. So thanks for joining us. Make sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and until next time, enjoy filling your hearts and your jars.